Hello, just getting everything checked out. Stream health looks good. Should be. That's why we're using StreamYard. Alrighty. Well, that looks good. I can not be double loading. Some banners. Hey, how you doing? So tonight I've been hanging out doing something different and just sort of what I call patent fishing, where we go to random.org, get 25 random numbers between 1 and 10 million, or 1 and 1 million, and just see what patents we come up with. So we'll throw that on the bottom for anyone who shows up new and wonders what in the world we're doing. Please keep your comments civil. I'm having to deal with everything tonight. So none of the rando weird stuff, please. Actually, let me double check. Am I, what kind of, let's see, entertainment, thumbnail, playlist, not made for kids, so on and so forth. Hold potentially problematic comments. Doesn't look like I get customization. Here we go. Who can send messages? Sorry, but I'm going to have to turn on subscriber only mode. 5 minutes. That seems like much. Yeah, we'll give it 5 minutes. And slow mode. Give you maybe a 5-second gap there. How's that sound? Sounds good to me. All right. Got all those settings set. Now we can get started with the fun stuff. All righty. First rando patent, 32,418. Drum roll. Actually, we got to get to the images first. Ooh, a sawmill. It's a little crooked. Got some belts with variable speeds, pulleys down here. All right. Well, it's a sawmill, but let's go see what the actual claims are. So obviously, he wasn't the first to patent a sawmill in 1861. Let's see here. Throw on the highlighter. William M. Ferry Jr. of Ferryburg. I wonder if he owned the place. Useful improvement in sawmills. Plan of the sawmill with my improvements applied to it. A head and end view, longitudinal view. So this is generally the long-winded explanation of the diagram or diagrams. And sometimes that's fun to look through, but usually the meat of the matter is down here at the bottom, the actual claims. So these are the things that he claims are unique to his patent. The slotted box and the roller for the purpose of actuating the mechanism used in reversing the motion of the sawmill. Well, I mean, first reversible sawmill. That's what he's claiming. Hand lever this, jointed thing that. If we find something small enough that we can take the patent design of, clearly long out of patent, We might do a 3D printed version, but this looks a little complicated for making a 3D printed version. All right, well, moving on. Let's see, patent number 485-510. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. All right. A spoon holding attachment. That's right, just in case your spoons were falling into your cups too often. Here's a way to attach your spoon to your cup. How convenient. Let's see here. Be it known that Joseph so and such, a citizen of the U.S. and so on, as the following specification, invented a certain new and useful improvements in spoon holding. Who knew that there were old and not so useful improvements in spoon holding? But that's pretty much the standard language for all of these. Oh, yeah. More especially at soda water fountains and similar places where a spoon is often used to serving different drinks. That makes a little more sense. Commercial spoon holder. Illustrated in the drawing based on the two figures. Oh, well, this is pretty small, one-page patent. Combination of the holder C, a lateral arm D, extending upward there from sufficiently to reach the top of the glass and terminating an overhanging fork D prime. Open laterally in a position to receive a spoon as it slides along the interior of the glass, so substantially as described. So pretty much just this little add-on piece here. And it's got some sort of clamping mechanism, if you will, to hold on to the spoon. It looks like a little spring-loaded clamp. Well, I guess that was a problem for soda water back in 1892. Moving on. Patent 143-081. You never know what you're going to find, folks. Grain separators. So a mechanical system of separating grains in case you accidentally got them mixed up. Let's see. Or is it the wheat from the chaff kind of separator? There's a little control lever. Various platforms. All right, let's see. Joseph Coons of New Arbonne in the county of Sibley, state of Minnesota. Oscillating grain separator. Arrangement of the belt and pulleys, driving the various parts. Similar letters of reference indicate corresponding parts. If I had a purpose for separating grain, I might try and build one of these, but I don't. Let's see. Where's his claim start? So if you get an old enough patent, the claims aren't in the same place. It's not the same layout. Looks like 1873. It's not. Ratio between the horizontal and vertical movements of the rack and connector may be regulated at will. This adjustment enables the forward movement of the straw to be accelerated and retarded as required. A rack having the movement herein described may be used in connection with endless canvas apron. All right. Just a little. Turn this clockwise here. Looks like you feed everything in one way, and these shake and vibrate to produce two different outputs. Alrighty, moving on. $268. 752. A chuck. Hey, chuck. Is that a 3-jaw chuck for a lathe? Interesting little lobe shapes you got here. Kind of pinch in the item. All right, let's see what the claim is. Oh, looky here. Konrad Trobach, subject of the King of Prussia and German Emperor, residing in Berlin. Although this is the U.S. Patent Office, anyone from all over the world can file a patent. Improvements in chucks to be used in lathes, boring, or similar machines for holding and gripping pieces of work and other purposes, with the accompanying drawings. Yeah, it does look like a head of the block, having 3 or more recesses, reception of corresponding number of tightly fitted guide pins. The worm catches on the worm teeth, and the corresponding hole in the ring bead. So yeah, lever plates. So it looks pretty much like that. So this worm interacts with the worm gear here, rotating the intersection, and by rotating these various lobes, you get sort of a neck tightening action on the center there, as each one of these are moved from this position, the open position, to the closed position. You know, I suppose this doesn't look like it. It does have some little bit of a flaw here, because depending on the circumference of the hole in your lobes and the circumference of the thing you're trying to hold, you're really only contacting the thing you're holding by just very small surface where these 2 circles are tangent to 3 circles are tangent to each other. See if it's 3, or it actually look like it could be a whole number of plates. 3, 6, 9 plates. With that many plates, you might actually get a decent grip. Interesting little way of locking it up sideways. All right. There's your lathe chuck. Moving on. Talking to myself. Just talking to myself. It's a little bit weird. Here we go. Patent number 824058, a condiment holder. All right. It looks more like a blender. Got some sort of weird blendery looking feature. Blender blade at the top, though. You can see these are, if we zoom in, this is sort of a threaded top part. Condiment holder. Looks more like a pepper grinder or something to that effect. Or slicer. Let's see what he says. Full pages. William J. Bain of the U.S. New and useful condiment holder. Condiment holders and is for an object-provided device of the class embodying new and improved features for convenience, reliability of action, slightness, whatever, and efficiency. Some of the condiments in common use, notably common salt, are hygroscopic. You bastard. Likes too much water. To such a degree that during humid weather they may become moist and make to their operations as shakers a matter of great annoyance. Oh my. Can't have that great annoyance. Improved means for stirring and beating the contents of the holder and scraping the useful perforate top and feeding the contents. Alright, well that kind of makes sense. You got a number of little bars that twist. Oh, there's the hand crank. Missed that earlier. Yeah. Turn the hand crank, keeps all your salt This actually might be something we could print. I don't know how terribly useful it is. But let's set this one aside and see if we can print one. It doesn't show what it looks like from above, but I'm assuming it's a cylinder. And we can probably use these images to bring them into CAD. So that looks more like a fan now than a cutting blade. He has all sorts of specific details as to all of that. Let's, which one's this? Let's keep this one aside. Oh, 824.058. Just putting a note down real quick. Condiment holder. What is it? Is that what it called it? Yeah, condiment holder. Well, that one's printable. Yeah, it's not really clear whether these are just bars. Let's see. Are those bars or plates? I think they're just bars because I'd imagine it's meant to sort of keep it stirred. And just how many of them, if we were looking down from above, would these be two others sticking out in the other way or what? Let's see. They're 19 and 20. So here we go. Jason to the trunnion 13 for any approved number of blades 17 and 18 rigidly secured to the spindle 12 and in contact with the cap 11. Blades are arranged in pairs as in 17, 18. 17, 18. Oh, these are those blades. So whether you need 4, 2, 6, he's trying to cover his bases. Similarly shaped and screw propeller blades, but individuals of the pairs reversibly inclined to the cap so as to be turned in the usual direction. Forward edge of the blade, 17, comes in contact with the cap to scrape away accumulations, while the forward edge of the blade 18 follows the space from the cap and is rearward angled. So that blade 18 serves to feed the contents and force it through the perforation. So that's what he thought was all sort of unique. So while this edge is scraping, these edges are pulling stuff in, almost like a pump, I guess. Yeah, we'll save that one. Maybe we'll make that one. That one doesn't look too difficult. And we're moving on. So obviously these patents are all old, and I chose them. I chose that range because the mechanical ones are much more interesting to look at than the computer or electronic ones. Variable speed transmission gearing. Let's see. This is all cross-sectional view. So mostly these are probably rotational or pulleys. Actually, I see it now. Here we got a piston. We got a push rod, piston, probably a crankshaft. Let's see, full pages. Some various gears. Okay. I'm so lazy I don't want to draw all the gear teeth. Just do a dash line. There's a valve mechanism for the piston. All right, variable speed transmission gearing. Mr. Thomas Churchill, subject of the King of Britain. Oh. Yeah, okay. Subject of the King of Britain. How old is this? 1904. So he's a subject of Great Britain, but he's living in state of Virginia. Certain and useful improvements in variable speed transmission gearing, of which the following specification. Various gears and shafts and keys and so forth, collars. Where's your claims? Where's your claims? What's your actual claim here? Oh, yeah, this is a long one. It's like got pages. Here we go. From the foregoing, it will be apparent that by opening and closing valve 24, more or less, the speed of the rotation of member 2 may be readily controlled, said member being at rest when the valve is fully opened, and full of speed when it's closed, and rotating any desired intermediate speed controlled by the reciprocations of piston 7. Consequence resistance to the rotation of gear 4. So, yeah. Looks pretty complicated. So this controls... interesting. So the idea is that your pulley, this is, again, cross-section. So this is turning towards us. And that's causing this part to go up and down, piston to go up and down. And the amount at which the air is allowed to travel from one side to the piston, of the piston to the other, creates resistance and thereby slows down the speed of the wheel. Basically just burn off the energy. Sure, you get a slower speed, but you've also wasted a bunch of energy by turning air into heat. Simple enough idea, though. Nice continuous amount of adjustment with no real gearing. No significant gearing, I should say. Me. All right. Yeah. Might be interesting to make that, just for giggles. I don't know what I'd use it on. Moving on. Oh no, they're going to demonetize me for singing a song. Composite metal roll. Well, that's boring. Come on. Yeah, okay, is a roll made with different types of metal and thus is a composite. Me. Not terribly interesting. Let's see what we got here. Looking good so far. Let's see. Oh, Jesus, taking forever. All right. Yeah, it's behaving. And I just got to make sure things are going. Moving on. Composite metal roll. You're boring, Mr. CJ Reed. Where are you from, though? Let's just, for giggles, let's see where Mr. Reed is from. Philadelphia. A new and useful improvement in composite metal rolls. Ooh, sexy. Sexy stuff. Indicated here you've been made for forcing tubes of cast brass or bronze over cast iron drums, but such a process is expensive and the resulting product is more or less porous or spongy. Yeah, that's the last thing you want out of your metal rolls is being porous and spongy. I gotta tell you. Moving on. Doodly-dee, here we go. What could it be? Patent from 1911. 997, 195. Two-cycle gas engine. Well, that's interestingly different. Mr. Jenkins. C.F. Jenkins, two-cycle gas engine. Looks like a pretty complicated piston. various gas ports. Got yourself a spark plug. All right, Jenkins of Washington, District of Columbia. Certain new and useful improvements to the 2-cycle gas engine. So, in case anyone is unfamiliar, most piston engines that you run into are 4-cycle, where they suck in air and fuel mixture, compress that fuel mixture, explode that fuel mixture, and then exhaust all the exhaust. So the piston goes up and down 4 different times for each rotation. Is it rotation? Not rotation, but for each cycle. 2-cylinder engine, by comparison, draws in all the gas. It draws in the gas, and while it's drawing in the gas, it's also exhausting whatever may already be in there. Then it's going to compress that gas, and it explodes, and the explosion is pushing out the movement of the piston down. Actually evacuates the cylinders and also draws in more fuel, so they're less efficient. And these are typically the engines that you would have to add oil to the gas to keep them lubricated. They're inefficient in gas usage, but they're efficient in design, in the sense that they're much more simple to build. In a lot of cases, as it looks like here, there's no actual valve train, so you don't have a separate cam opening and closing valves. The valves are open and closed based off of the position of the piston. So this looks like the exhaust port here. And so once the piston is pushed down in the power stroke, the exhaust is allowed to escape. And actually, it looks like right in this area of the piston. Yeah, so in any case, 2-cycle engine. Let's see what his actual claims are as to what his improvements are. Claim 1. In a gas engine, a cylinder, a piston reciprocating therein, a longitudinal passage located outside the cylinder but within the water jacket. Upper end of the passage being open communication with the upper end of said cylinder, the lower end adapted to be opened and closed by the reciprocation of the piston, and a spark plug located at the lower end or ingress end of the passage. And then this is the way claims go. First I claimed it was a gas engine, a cylinder, and a piston reciprocating therein. Now it's in a gas engine, a cylinder, a piston reciprocating therein, a longitudinal, everything I said before in claim 1. Pretty much. Let's see, where does it become different? Said piston having a plurality of rings so located thereupon as to lie on each side of the ingress end of the passage when the piston is at the upper end of its stroke. So basically what he claims is 2-cylinder engine with a piston designed thusly, with the holes thusly. Now all of that, but with rings, such that one set is above the ingress air and another set is below the output air, the exhaust, etc. So it gets a little repetitive in a lot of the claims, since they sort of restate what the first claim is in each one. So even here, claim 4, in a gas engine, a cylinder, a piston reciprocating therein, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, and so forth. A screened bypass therein communicating with the said passage with the piston is in the lower end of its stroke. Okay, well, he made a new gas engine with no valving. It might be useful. Not something I can build on a 3D printer, but let's keep going. Moving on. Oh, not page number. We never know what we're gonna get. Doodly-dee. Ooh. A sash holder. As in a window sash. Well, that looks awful complicated for holding the window sash up. Let's see. Sash holder. Mr. Oscar Bebe, citizen of the U.S., state of New York, new and useful sash lock, and holder of which the following is a specification. Lock and holder, fairly simple. Other objects and advantages of the invention will appear in the following description, and novel features thereof will be particularly pointed out in the claims. Yeah, that's pretty much what you do. That's what you do in a patent. See, look through a few dozen of these and you'll see quite the pattern. So, skipping on down to the claims. Claim 1. The herein described combined sash lock and holder consisting of the oblong housing terminating in its lower end with a seat and having its opposite sidewalls provided with inclined slots and roller seated at the seat and having trunnions, again with the trunnions, extending into the slots and shafts and so forth, segmented cam, so forth and so forth, coiled spring, segmented shaft. So basically what it looks like is we have this sort of pushed out mechanism, if you will. It looks like it's built into the wall. And so by turning this lever, you extend this friction brake, if you will, this one here, out against the sash. And that helps hold it up. Well, I remember in our old house we had really, really long, like maybe I don't know, I was a kid, so maybe twice as long as this water bottle. Probably not as big as it was. It's bigger in my memory, in other words. And they were lead weights that were inside little pockets on the side of the window. So when you lifted the window, it was counterweighted with a rope and pulley, which seems to be a hell of a lot easier than this complicated mechanism. So anyway, moving on. Doodly-dee. Let's see what we can find next. I gotta come up with a new song in my head. A saw swag. Saw swag? Swedge? Let's see, we got some ratcheting teeth here. Got a little handle. Oh, no, not ratcheting teeth. That's the saw blade. Durr. And let's see. Looks like it would go on the saw blade. And is this to alternate the teeth a little or sharpen them? I'm not particularly sure. Let's see. Full document. Samuel Hill of Ontario, Dominion of Canada. Certain new and useful inventions saw swag, I don't know. Following full and clearance of side elevation improves saw swag. Elevation and my invention has an objective to rapidly swag the teeth. SWAGE. Of band, circular, and other saws can be quickly moved from one tooth to the other. Swagging affected by punch struck by a hammer. By a punch struck by a hammer. In the hand of the workman. Alright, so like I thought, the swagging is where every alternating tooth, instead of having all your teeth lined up on your saw, you have them a little bit like this. And that way they carve out some space so that the rest of the blade can move through the gap. This doesn't look like it's particularly useful. I guess it helps keep everything lined up. So you just sort of lift it up, move to the next one, smack it with a hammer. Move to the next one, smack it with a hammer, and seems to automatically alternate between directions, I think. I don't know. Let's look up the term. A saw, S-W-A-G-E. Alrighty. Well, here's some alternates. Here's some swaging machines. Hand swaging tool. I'm probably saying that horribly wrong. I should probably also look for definition. At the Merriam Webster's. Tool for metalworkers shaping their work by holding it in the work. Striking it with a hammer. Okay. Okay, yeah. It's a way to hold the saw so you're not cutting your hand while you're trying to adjust the teeth, I suppose. Would be more interesting if I were, say, a woodworker. So, I get moving on. Here we go. 1878. Oh, that looks a lubricator. Now, that's a complicated lubricator. All sorts of empty segments and pistons and such. See here. Improvement in lubricators. Of Mr. New Haven, from Mr. New of New Haven in Connecticut. Object my invention to provide apparatus which will be applicable to all locomotives. Lots of locomotive patents, as you can imagine. Supply that portion of the machine which to be oiled, as for example the valves and the cylinders, prescribed amount of oil per mile for every mile run by the locomotive, or to a stationary or marine engine. It's all run together. A prescribed quantity for every stroke of the piston. Oh, ain't that convenient. Automatic. So you can see we got some rotational gear here going on. That's turning said worm. That rotates the valve, open and close, looks like. Yeah, all right. Not much steam engine going on today. We'll move on. Sorry, don't know where the mute button is just yet. Images. A carriage flap fastener. Gotta fasten those carriage flaps. Nice little, what do you call these things? Wing nut looking shape. This sort of keys two bits of belt buckle together. Well, that might be printable. A little, doesn't really show the back side thing. Oh, maybe it's, let's check the rest of the pages. Maybe there's a diagram of the back here. Nope. Out of luck. So it looks like this butterfly or a wing nut type portion is bound to the back piece here, and this piece kind of slides in, and then you rotate the wing nut to lock. All right. Improvement and patent number this. Well, what do you know? Our first improvement patent. Plate or spring to allow the eccentric lever of turning latch to yield and adapt itself to the thickness of the yoke, locking the parts, preventing them from rattling. Oh, God. Can you imagine riding on the wagon and going on the wagon? My carriage. Oh my, if only the carriage flaps weren't rattling so much. I must invent something. So there you go. Keep those carriage flaps from rattling. Oh, it might be buildable. I don't know what I'd use it for, but it looks like, you can use it for some sort of belt strap or locking mechanism. I'll have to take a little closer detail here. And that's all so that these clamp together tightly and don't rattle. Huh. All right. Moving on. Let's go ahead and save this one. That might be printable. Carriage flap fastener. Scintillating content we're creating today. New and unique and never before seen. All right, what do we got here? We got 1891, a bridge. Hey, well, that's something new. Take a look at the bridge concept here. I think I might have been over one of these. We got some rigid portions here, some what look like turnbuckle cables. All right. How all the cables are combined, or posts are combined together. A little bit more detail on the connections. A bridge Mr. Green has invented of Chicago, state of Illinois. New and useful improvement in bridges, of which the following is a specification. Reduce the weight and cost of bridges as much as possible without lessening their strength and durability. Well, of course we do. Who wants a heavy bridge? Side elevation of 1/2 the bridge. Ordinary construction of bridges. Great waste of material causing the holes made for the purpose of joining the different parts together. This weakens the parts. Where the holes are made. Different joins. My preferred construction. Minutely and in detail from the drawings and applying a reference letter to each part throughout, as they generally do. Let's see, here's their claims. All right, in a framework of the class described, a combination of series of tubes, a series of hollow blocks arranged between the ends, nuts and bolts. Framework of the class defined, diagonal straining rods. Oh, so they're rods, not cables. Yes, and generally speaking, most materials, metal materials, are strongest in tensile strength when you're pulling on the material. Obviously, metal's usually fairly easy to bend. So if you can arrange your system where the stresses are, as we see here, in the pulling on the rods rather than bending the rods, you can make the rods fairly thin. Yeah, I think I've been across a bridge that looks something like this. All right. Moving on. Let's see. Take a quick look at the analytics. See if we're getting any traction. Ooh, here we go. That looks like a nice cross-sectional view. Let's just say a pipe, maybe a valve. Certainly got a wheel on top here. A valve, yay! So lots of detail to the valve. You can see inlet here. Goes up. Where's the path through here? And through the holes. And out through there. That's all. Seems like an awful complicated bypass passageway through the valve mechanism. See if they got another angle on it. That's a little cleaner. Looks like it's a valve designed for specific being able to open it very small, minute amounts would be indicated on the wheel here. Otherwise, the internals look much like most other gate valves I've seen. Let's see. All right. Turn that off. Sorry, I gotta check on where I'm at now here. There we go. All right. Can't stand listening to myself. Moving on. Oh, well, we didn't even read anything about the valve. Again, big wheel. All right, let's see. William Henry Thompson, citizen of Great Britain. Company drawings, vertical slide elevation, so on and so forth. Similar letters refer to similar parts. Yes, yes, yes. Where are your claims? What are you claiming? What's new and unique? In a valve, combination of valve casing and valve cup seating. Said casing is perforated, valve cap bearing settings. Yeah, hollow stem, so on and so forth. Screw threaded, spindle. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly what he's patenting here as unique, but I can only imagine from the diagram that it's the small amount of adjustment that's being afforded to you by turning said wheel this direction or that direction would turn said worm, that would turn this gear very slowly, very small incremental amounts. And since that's very small incremental amounts and you're gearing it down to this internal gear, you're making it even smaller, and that gear is making this piston go up or down. That piston or stem is what's controlling the valve seat. So looks like it's designed to where this could go all the way down, and this part would be seated down in this hollow. And if that were the case, it looks like that would be the fully closed position. Not exactly sure. But in any case, I think the primary goal in all of this is the fine-tuning of the amount that the valve is open through this gearing mechanism. So we're going to go with that. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we randomly get here. Here it comes. You never know. 1892. Shedding mechanism for looms. So I'm weaving. Mr. F. Lacey makes a setting mechanism for looms. Shedding. Not sure what that terminology means in loom world, but looks like we got a spindle of thread here of some sort. Lots of moving levers. See the full pages. Shedding mechanism. Looks like it's card programmed. What's the original sort of, yeah, there we go. These are the cards. They go over this wheel. Holes or not holes decide which of these levers are pulled forward. Shedding mechanism. Fred Lacey of Massachusetts. Shedding mechanism for lube, particularly in what are known as Dobbies? Dobbi. If anybody happens to see this one day and they know what any of this is, because I don't know looms and weaving all that much. I know warp and weave and that kind of stuff, but that's about it. Let's see. In the first class mentioned, each shed in the warp is formed by moving warp threads out of the normal plane of the warp threads. Oh, okay. Oh, the shed. Okay. Yeah, again. Oh, this is the actual mechanism that lifts one set of threads above the other so that you can get the one set of warp threads above another so that you can put the weft through. So this is actually like pretty much the Babbage machine, where the cards and the holes in the cards, as played through this is a side view, determine which warp threads are lifted. And this whole mechanism is one of several hundred, usually. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So, whether there's holes or not, I mean, this little lever goes up or down. And that would control this. There you go. There's that leveler. Rotating here. Ah, yeah. And then I suppose, oh, I see. I get it now. There we go. So, little confusing. This is the frame. These are the separators between the warp threads. And you are picking up individual frames of warp threads based off of the programming on the cards here. So it'd be like a tartan pattern or something like that. So this actually may not be a whole lot of levers, because you may only have, 6, a dozen different frames, but the frames are the ones that control all the. So in the simplest world, you'd have 2 frames for which warp threads you're lifting and alternating them, and you end up with the classic weave pattern. But by staggering them and threading them differently, you can get all sorts of patterns. Let's see. 1892, did he claim he was the originator of this? New and useful improvements in a shedding machine for looms. So not particularly new. Well, let's go again. Let's go check the claims. Wow, this is a longer one. Oh, he's only got 2 claims. All of that before that was the description of how the mechanism works. So if you ever really get into looking at an old patent, it's best to print them out. It's a lot easier to have the diagram separate while we're looking at the description. Harness frames, harness levers, and coordinating connecting said harness frames with said harness levers. Hook jacks operatively connected to each other, said levers, etc., etc. Indicating fingers for each harness to open the pattern bars. Doesn't really say if it's completely unique. I mean, he kind of claims this aspect of it is unique, which I thought that went all the way back to, maybe Babbage was 1892. Let's go double check. Babbage loom. Charles Babbage in the loom, 1791, died 1871. So, sure enough, there's her cards that determine which warp threads to lift, and all like that. Alrighty, cool. Moving on. We're gonna save that one off just because it's interesting in the history of computing. Babbage and his machinery. Let's see. All right. And our next guy. 607 766. Let's see. 1898. What are you going to say? Steam engine, household product, washing machine of some sort. Let's see. It's a pen. Worse is a freaky looking pocket holder for pencils. A pocket holder for pencils. A little bit of twisted metal. Fits in your pocket. Hold your pencil. Couldn't be much easier. Does it perhaps keep your pencil from staining your shirt? Like, you know, a pocket protector? Maybe. Let's see if it claims any protection from the pencil. Let's see. Clay County, Illinois. Safety attachment for pockets, which the following is a full, clear, and exact description. Safety attachment where I pencils, toothbrushes, books, spectacles, books. That seems like a bit much. Etc. may be held in place in the pocket of the wearer and consist of the novel construction, combination, and arrangement of the parts herein shown. A U-shaped bins. Lots of U-shaped bins here. All right, first claim. Pencil constructed a single piece of resilient wire bent into a U shape, and its ends being bent into hooks to engage in the upper edge of the pocket. Well, you know, I think this can not just be 3D printed. I think we could probably hand build this out of some piece of coat hanger or something. That'd be even simpler. But no, it doesn't look like it's got anything to protect your pocket from your pencil. I'm not sure how it's a safety. Oh, I know how it's a safety device. Because your pocket is on your vest or your apron in the machine shop. And when you bend forward, if your pocket falls off into your lathe, it gets all chewed up and thrown in your face. So that's how this is a safety device. Got to keep them pencils from popping out while you're using machinery. All right, moving on. See if we come up with anything weird and nuclear or something. Not yet. Not in the 1 millions, though. I think the 1 millions were all back in early 1900s. This is 1900. Got a lot of teeth. A pipe trimming and threading tool. So, a pipe cutting die. Thread cutting die, looks like. Pretty straightforward. See what he thinks is so super unique. Pipe trimming and threading tool. Relates to dies for trimming, tapering, and threading the out ends of pipes, and its object is provide a tool which all three of these operations are simultaneously performed like never before. Threading and trimming and planing blades and edges disposed that as threads are formed, their apexes are trimmed and removed the irregularities and such. Well, never knew those were separate. Aperture block having instantiating blades. Some of the blades. This says it is an useful improvements in pipe trimming and threading tools, but is this perhaps the first instance of all of those features? Well, that's the patent, right? It's the first instance where all of those features are in one block, rather than, I suppose you used to have to cut the thread and then taper the thread or something. I don't know. clearly they thought this was an improvement. So, moving on. (1906) Automatic fuel feeding furnace. Well, what do you know? It's an automatic fuel feeding furnace for all your automatic fuel feeding furnace needs. We got a hopper, got some sort of conveyor belt looking thing. I don't know which end is. Clearly that's the hopper end. Where's the feed end? That's a big furnace. A lot of these things for industrial purposes. Ooh, that's fairly complicated. Matching gears on each side. Keep everything moving. Citizen of Austria-Hungary residing in Budapest. Automatic fuel feeding furnace. For all your automatic fuel feeding furnace needs. Fire bridge, fire grates constructed as trolleys or sliding cradles. The grates on which the fuel has been consumed being returned onto the lower rack. All right, so feed in fuel up top. It gets pushed this away and presumably burned to heat these pipes. And then the resultant is dropped down below, and that belt feeds it back out. Looks like it would, I guess, feed it back out between the two sides, because all of the, yeah, there you go. So all of the gearing is on the sides of the mechanism. Looks like we got a little hand control as a clutch, something to that effect. It's a eccentric. It should be able to make. So wheel turns in the eccentric turns, pulls this up and down, lets it ratchet so that it's, it's a slow movement of conveyor belt, letting the fuel burn and coming back, sort of ratcheting through. And then all that mechanism's on either side of the belt. All right, for all your automatic fuel feeding furnace needs. And presumably that's where the firebox is. All right, moving on. Clearly I'm doing this just to entertain myself here. No chat. All right. If people promise to behave, I'll turn it off subscriber only chat. Let's see. Customization. All right. We're going to allow everybody to chat, but we are going to keep it on slow mode, just in case people want to chat or throw me stupid crap. We'll see. I have faith in my very, very, very tiny audience. An electromagnetic valve and connection. Ooh, electromagnetic. H-FLAD. 1884. Didn't think there was that much electro back in 1884, but I guess so. Again, looks like a piston. Electromagnetic valve. It's something like a solenoid. Let's see what the full document would be. Complicated looking. Looks like a big U-shaped magnet. All right. Yeah, that does look like a U-shaped magnet. And presumably it would cause a rotation or a push-pull movement. One of the two. Improvements in electromagnetic. Well, first it's Mr. Flad of St. Louis. Electromagnetic valves and connections I do hereby declare following to be a full description. Electromagnetic valves and connections controlling air brakes on railroad cars. There we go. Yet another air or train patent. I wonder if this is the electromagnetic where the fail-safe, that if this electromagnet ever falls and it's no longer energized, you actually end up closing the valve. So you get in case one train car breaks from another, this wire is broken, the brakes automatically go on. In case the train cars get decoupled. Let's see if that's his claim. Air brakes for both compressed and vacuum type. Long trains, railroad cars, attended by several disadvantages. First, the time required for the air to travel from the air pump to the reservoir on the engine increases rapidly with the number of cars. Well, that would be true. Brakes on the car are applied successively, those nearest the air pump or reservoir being applied first, so you end up with this inchworm of the first car being brakes going on, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And of course, if your first car's brakes go on and the rest of your cars are still, traveling down the track, well, then all of the strain is on that one car's brakes. So let's see. Every time the brakes are operated, cylinders are required to be charged or exhausted. In the case of a vacuum brake system, let's see. Making air supply pipes very small diameter, the pumps and reservoirs of great capacity, attempt to attain prompt filling of the exhaustion of the pipes whenever it's relevant. So it's really more of a way of synchronizing the brakes, it looks like. Overcome these advantages as far as possible, and to this end, the view of my present improvements consist of a nominal combination of brakes only provided with suitable ports connecting the same to the main pipes and valves arranged in said cylinder for the opening and closing of said ports. The electromagnetic device for controlling said valves is hereinafter particularly described in connection with the accompanying drawings. First brakes of the Malnickentrot type. Well, hey, if any of the folks over at Insco Rail company I used to work with, Insco, they had a rail division. I have a rail division. They do a lot of brakes and track stuff, train stuff. Maybe this is familiar to them. I'll have to ping them. So then it goes through describing a mechanism. It will now be observed that by using the electromagnetic valve in each cylinder, I am able to keep the supply of compressed air of efficient tension close to all the cylinders of the train, and that no appreciable time will be lost by the air in traversing the pipes from communicating its establishment between the cylinder and the pipe. Close this external air, movement of the valve. Short route, almost without resistance, is provided by the transmission of the desired effect of the locomotive to the brakes. Sounds like a super useful improvement in train braking systems. Let's get on back to the top here. Yeah, looks like we have a fairly simple, actually, if this is the wire around your electromagnet, that's coming into this. Alrighty, moving on. I went ahead and turned off the subscriber only mode, so feel free to chat. Maybe you want me to look up a particular kind of patent. Ooh, a box trimming machine for all your box trimming needs. A little crank arm. Looks like a number of planes. Yeah, they look like they look like just regular hand planes standing upright, being pushed and pulled by the eccentric. Let's see. Greenpoint booklet and assigned to some other place or some other people. Box trimming machine. Yep. Conveniently and rapidly playing off the overhanging ends of the pieces of a board in the manufacture of rectangular wooden boxes for packaging and the like. So it really is just a gang of wood planes powered by a eccentric gear or a crank gear. It looks like there's some weights applied as well. Yeah, eesh. Can you imagine this whole thing just like 4 planes going up and down in front of you? You're like, yeah, stick the board in. What was the year? 1875? Oof. Looks like one of those dangerous pre-OSHA devices. Moving on, we got just a few left for this session. And maybe we'll try this again. See if anybody likes it in the post. Let's see what we got here. You never know what you're gonna get when you random patent fish. Ooh, instrument for measuring diameters. I always needed to measure on a diameter, don't you? Let's see, let's pop this clockwise. So, basically a set of calipers. But it looks like a set of heavy-duty calipers. You can get some measurements off of the crossbar here. And then, so that's a fixed crossbar. Get you on one side. Oh, I see. Interesting. So basically what happens is that as you push the stock in between the jaws and it comes in contact with this base plate, the difference between, or the unevenness, I should say, between the distance from this plate to the center of the stock and these jaws in the center of stock are translated via these levers to this gauge that shows you when you've put the stock in exactly in the middle. So in other words, if the stock were further down, then this base plate would move down. That would cause these gears here to rotate, and you would get a deviation in this marker. And so what you want to do is make sure that the marker's in the middle, and once it is, then you can read off your diameter from the I guess one side or the other of this gauge. Looks like it's meant to be showing a 4-inch radius. Yeah, because there is kind of that issue, if you will, when you go to measure a round stock and you want to make sure you get the actual widest. You want to make sure your jaws are on the widest part of it. But again, make sure that the jaw distance to the center of the stock is the same as the center jaw. And that helps guarantee that you've got it lined up properly. Interesting little mechanism. Let's see the full documents. And you call it a instrument for measuring diameters. A little more detail to the center push bar and gears. So here he's showing, again, let's rotate it. Let's rotate that and not my head. So here's what it looks like when you're off and your distances are incorrect. Looks like you're just not quite totally lined up. Interesting. All right, well. See what your claims are. What your claims, son? Mr. George Vine of New Haven, Connecticut. Measuring, i.e. detecting, the differences in the diameters of shafts, rolls, bearings, crank pins, etc. in short, and detecting whether a roll or bearing is in any way out of true. Yeah, well, there is that. So, you know, finding the diameter is one thing, but the presumption is that it's a perfectly round item. And in this, if it's out of round, then as you rotate your stock through this system of three jaws, you'll see some deviation. Well, that seems useful. Make sure your round stock is round. Let's see. Claim the first is the combination with a standard and swing lever suspended therefrom, having a scale and a swing bar. So basically the extra if the roll at a given place is 1/1000th of an inch or more or less, then the 4 inches in diameter, the pointer will move toward the right, and the scale and the roll at any place more than 4 inches in diameter, the pointer will move toward the left on the scale. The L and S mean large and small. So that's measures diameters, but also measures stock that's not totally round. Bonus. I'm sure that was super useful at one time, and there's probably a version of this still around today. All right, moving on. What do we got? 1902. It is a micrometer, a micrometer. Oof, that's an odd shaped one. I don't think I've seen a micrometer in that kind of shape. Let's see. Got your various 10,000ths. Your metal spring to hold things in place. So it's more of a depth micrometer, I guess, depending on the distance that this plate moves through. We get the distance measured in that direction. It's a very special purpose as a micrometer goes. Rates to micrometers are instruments for gauging certain sizes of small objects. Generally used at present are of a screw type. Disadvantages of screw types. Clearly there weren't too many disadvantages. They still are. The screw types are certainly still around. Costly to produce. So many patents are because I want to make it cheaper. Cheaply manufactured, easily handled, and read directly without recourse to mental calculation. This is because when you look at a screw type micrometer, there's usually you have to add up several different gauge readings and then do a little bit of mental calculation to figure out where you left your decimal point. And tapered bar and frame. So that's his primary claim, is the other micrometers are hard to read and they're expensive to produce. Yeah, so not very complicated machine. I don't know, this might actually be something 3D printable too. I don't know, that'd be terribly useful. Yeah, We'll save it aside. Maybe we'll make this. All right. Only 3 left, folks. Don't worry. It won't be long. I don't know if there's anyone here waiting for the end, except for my wife, who's ready to eat dinner, so. But we wanted to get through these 25, see what we find. Ooh, method of securing a bosom to a shirt body. Oh my. Oh, that looks like very long and thin bosoms. All right, let's get the full document. Come on. What is this? Method of securing a bosom to a shirt body. So, sort of a bra? Sort of a built-in bra? Underwear bra? I don't know, but those cups look wrong. Unless that's all just reinforcement stays. Improvement in shirts in which the bosom has a loose border or edge fly and that the hole in the rear surface form the rear layer of the bosom. Produce a shirt with the bosom neatly and durably finished and attached to the shirt. Bosom? Am I reading that right? Is that not what I used to think it was? I'm not sure. A lot of detail on the stitching. All right, well, moving on. Let's see what we got. A cigarette holder. Oh, well, that's a fairly straightforward looking cigarette holder. Oh, got to cut it out of a sheet of metal. So that's a piece of flat sheet. All right, let's see the whole document, see what it's actually claiming here. Cigarette holder, cigar. Gabriel Rodriguez of Cuba. Improvements related to cigarette holders made collapsible in order that they shall retain their contents in good condition at all times. Made waterproof, exclude dampness, that was always necessary. Furnish inexpensive holders of substantial character. Consists of novel features. Various accompanying drawings. Make use of cardboard, parchment, or other material of suitable stiffness, which is cut in suitable lengths to form the sides of the holder. So the cigarette box, I guess. And various of the flap formed on the outer cover to cover the open end. Cardboard, wood, sheet metal. Covering may be paper, muslin, or flexible material. The size of the case will be regulated by the length of the cigarettes and the greatest number to be carried at once. I don't know. I guess no one had standardized the cigarette pack to 20 of them or whatever. I suppose. Alrighty. Moving on. Here's our last one for the evening, folks. If any of you are here or come back again, I'll probably do this again just for giggles. Let's see, 613, 613,000, 1898. What do you bet? Trains. Could be anything. Here we go. It's a switch derailleur for trains. What a surprise. All right, well, we won't get too far into this because I'm not that much into trains. All right, folks. Well, that was fun for a while. Been going an hour and a half. If you'd like to see this done again, drop a like, do the usual, subscribe, and so forth. And maybe next time I'll announce it ahead of time. Alrighty. All right, folks, that's about it. Have fun. We will see you in the next one.